Hi, I'm Alan, and I'm one of the instructors here at We Can Code It.
Hi, I'm Kendra, and I'm the admissions representative for the Columbus campus at We Can Code It.
Hi, I'm Lauren, and I'm the Student Success Program Manager.
Hi, I'm Lacey Nichols, and I am the Career Services Student Success Coach here at We Can Code It.
We're going to have you join us where we're going to teach you how to build web pages with
HTML,
CSS,
and JavaScript. All right, welcome to our Learn to Code video where we will be testing out a CSS slider. This is a lot of fun. And I want to start with a little demonstration of keyframes for you. So I'm going to throw just a div in our HTML just for practice here. And we want to just set up this div. I'm going to make a square here. So we're just going to put a width on this, maybe a background color. I'm just going to make like a red box. Just give it a width and a height. You can give it the same width and height if you want, or whatever you want to do with this box. This is just for practice, just to show you something. Now notice it's on the far left of our screen right now. We're going to move this box from the left to the right. So we're going to set an animation property here. Now I want to make a keyframe called move the box, and this is going to be 5 seconds, and it's going to last infinite. So it's just going to repeat itself over and over again. So here's the keyframe we're making called move the box. And we're going to deal with some percentages through the motion. So this is percentages through that 5-second motion. And we start at 0 over here on the far left. So we're going to start our margin at 0 pixels. Now we can control different levels or different positions within this movement. So at the 25% mark or the 50% mark, we can say that the margin has changed. So let's push this margin to the left 200 pixels. So it takes 25% of the time for it to go from 0 pixels to 200 pixels. And then at the 100% mark, we're going to go back over to the 0 pixels. All right, because see, it goes a lot faster from left to right. Now if we make that 50%, it's an even distribution from left to the right and then from the right back to the left. You can change that. Let's say you put it at 500, notice it, whoops. Put it at 500, notice it goes a lot further to the right and then back to the left in a nice evenly distributed motion. So we're going to use this process here to animate our images as we scroll through them in our slider. So that's just something to keep in mind here. We are going to make, we're going to use that animation property and we're going to make some keyframes that will control this motion. So I'm going to get rid of all this. So you can go back through that, play around with it, pause it, try it out a little bit. Let's get into the real application here. And so we're just going to make a basic page, start with a div, a containing element here, and we'll start to throw some images inside of it. So in the main section here, we will create our div for the slider. We're also going to have a separate div that will control those images. And I want to make sure that we have unique IDs on each of the images that we are placing into the slider here. And we're going to end up reserving some space here to grab those images. And it's just a lot easier in CodePen to grab image links and throw them in there. But remember, in a real web page that you're making, you want to store those images probably in a static folder because you just never know when those images might change on the web. So we're going to just bring in about 5 images here. So we'll place each one with a unique ID. So I will be changing those IDs here once we've brought these all over. There we go. Okay, so that will be our 5 images, and you can choose however many images that you desire to work with there. A lot of times the slider may have like 3 to 5 images in it. Now we're going to do something else here as well that's kind of fun, and the math on that will be rather interesting, but we are going to make a progress bar. That progress bar will basically show the status of when we will slide from one image to the next. So main will contain that slider, and main will contain that progress bar. We'll go ahead and throw our footer on here. And then I think we're just going to close off our container. That takes care of our HTML. All right, so there, I'll leave it on the screen for you so you can take a good look at what we have here. Our sections would be our header, our main section that contains both the slider and the progress bar, and then our footer. Those of you that have been following along in these videos, I really encourage you to get a text editor like VS Code, which will handle a lot of the spacing for you there a lot nicer. So what I did is I went out and found some images here. I want them all to be the exact same size. And for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to work with a landscape image. And this will be an 800 by 300 image, so 800 pixels long, 300 pixels high, and they're all going to be the same size. It's just going to make it a lot easier. I'm not getting into this video into editing with CSS any of our images. That's just going to take a little bit extra time, so I figured I'd just grab, for the purposes of this demo, some images that are all the same size. Same size, same shape, makes it a lot easier to work with. And so those are the images that we are going to turn into our slider. And right now you can see that they're placed on top of each other, one on top of the other. And we are going to make some changes to that so that we can actually put these in a horizontal pattern, since they're going to be sliding from the left, or from the right to the left. So we'll start by impacting our container a little bit here. And so there's our container, and you can see that it has that gray background on it. Basically contains all of the content that we have there. And we're going to use Flexbox in this case. And let's set our flex direction to be in column. And we're going to center our information here. So justify content and align items will take care of giving us perfectly centered information there. Let's see, I gotta make a little bit of a change because that should have taken effect. There we go. I didn't close off my header on line 4. Nice. Okay, so now you can see that we've got our title centered there. Now we're going to focus here on the div that is dealing with the slider and the progress bar, or basically the slider div, which deals with the images and the progress bar. So as far as my slider goes, I want to make that a width of 800 pixels and a height of 300 pixels. Watch what this does. And so it gives us that separation there. And those pictures are now sort of flowing outside because those pictures are all stacked on top of each other. They're flowing outside of that containing element, and that's okay. And so notice I made the width and height the exact same size as those images. And so we'll do an overflow of hidden on these. And what that will do is that it'll take away all those other images that were stacked there. So now they're not seen. They still exist there, they're just not seen. Let's throw a nice little border on this. And that'll just make those pictures stand out when they're inside of that element. Make it a little darker. There we go. So now let's take a look at the images div. This is interesting here. I'm going to put a 4,000 pixel width on those images. And I'll do a height of 300. So a little bit of math here. Each image, 800 pixels wide, 5 images. It makes a total of 4,000 pixels. We'll do an overflow of hidden on that as well, and now we can make our slide images keyframes. It's going to be 20 seconds, so our slider is going to last for 20 seconds, and it's going to continue infinitely. So that goes back to our demo with the red box that we had at the beginning there. So let me uncomment this for you and just show you what happened there. Will that show anything? No, I have to uncomment both of those overflows that are hidden. So check this out. I've now got all of my images lined up from left to right. And the width of that is 4,000 pixels long. And these are going to be sliding in from the right to the left now. But we're going to hide those images until we want them. So they're there, but we don't see them. They're going to scroll in for us. So that's going to set that up. Now we can build our keyframes, which is called slide images. And remember, this slider will last for 20 seconds, so we're going to do all of our math to deal with the 20-second interval that we have. And what I found was this is easiest to work with in 10% increments. So 0 and 10 for the first image, 20 and 30% for the second image. And remember, we're doing math on an 800 pixel wide image. So we are going to move our margin left -800. And what that does is that slides it from the right to the left, and then in these increments it would be -1600 to move that grouping of images. And then it's going to be -2400. And finally, -32. And then we go the whole way back to the beginning. We slide the whole way back to the beginning. So it's going to be really fast. It's going to reset our slider. And it just sits there. See? It comes in and it sits. And so that first percentage is when the image moves in, then it gives it a chance to sit there. So let's deal with our progress bar. We're almost done with this project. And we're going to put the progress bar right underneath our pictures. It will have the same width as our images. It's going to have a pretty small height though. We're going to make it a whiter background, and we'll put a new keyframe on this. And it's also going to last 20 seconds. And we're going to do an ease in, or I'm sorry, an ease out as it runs infinite. So it's just going to be sort of like a fade. So you can see the progress bar down there in white, but it's not doing much right now. And so let's go ahead and deal with that keyframe. So I'm just going to write a little bit of a note here for you so that you can kind of remember a couple of things as we go through this part of the project. This is probably the most complicated part. So the bar has to be stationary in a certain amount of frames. And then in another set of frames, the bar will be finished. And then in another set of keyframes, the bar has to disappear and resume cycle. And so these are just some comments that I'm going to place here for each of these sections that we build out, just so you can, I think it's going to make a lot more sense once you actually see it in action and you see this done here. So we'll kind of steal some of the code that we've got. I'm going to work with 20, 40, 60, 80, so it's that second grouping of percentages. So we're going to kind of think in terms of what's happening there. And these are the percentages when the image has already slid over and it is stopped. And it stops so you can actually see the picture before it moves on to the next one. We're going to play around with the opacity a little bit there. Now in the other images, so this is the part where we are in transition. Play around with the opacity at almost a full opacity. We're going to do 0.8. All right, so when you deal with those percentages like that, you can see how it goes from a 0 opacity to almost full opacity. We did a 0.8 there. As that picture is stationary, that bar is moving. And we're pretty much done. And you want to go back through that, and I'm going to just kind of scroll through the code so you can pause wherever you need to. Probably that last section there, the animate bar, will be the most complex part. Let's go ahead and take a look at that in full page, and you can see the image slides over. And
If you're interested in learning more about We Can Code It or how to be a full stack software developer, please visit our website at www.wecancodeit.org. Email us at admissions@wecancodeit.org or visit some of the links in our description. Thank you so much.